And now let us move on to our third knowledge session of the day, Reforming Defence Procurement, Ease of Business and Speed of Acquisition. This session will explore how evolving policies like DAP 2025, supported by digitisation and stronger industry participation, are reshaping India's acquisition landscape, driving efficiency, empowering industry, and ensuring faster, fairer, and more future-ready delivery to the services. And now I would request the moderator, the panelists, as well as our keynote speaker to please come up. I'll first call upon the moderator and the panelists. Mr. Rajinder S. Bhatia, Chairman, Defence Business, Kalyani Group. I'll check. The panelists, Rear Admiral Brijesh Vashishta, retired, Director Quality, Solar Defence and Aerospace Limited. Air Marshal Shirish B. Deo, retired, Founder and Chairman and Managing Director, JSR Dynamics. Mr. Sanjeev Kulkarni, Board Member, Optimus Logic. Can I request you all to please come up on stage? I would also like to call upon the Additional Secretary, Department of Defence, Ms. Dipti Mohil Chawla, to please come up and deliver the keynote address.
So, good afternoon, distinguished guests. First and foremost, I thank Bharat Shakti for giving me this opportunity to be addressing this gathering. The Shakti behind Bharat does not just lie in all of us sitting here and ideating, talking, and listening to people. It also lies in us imbibing the essence of what is the Shakti of Bharat, which is Atmanirbharta and self-reliance. This is a carrion call that the Honorable Prime Minister laid it out for us. It is not just a vision for us, it should be our calling. And I would like to not talk too much. I have just told Bhatia Saab that I would rather sit here with all of them and have an interactive session with all of you and answer any of your questions that I can answer. So let me start by saying that in the recent Combined Commanders Conference, Honorable Prime Minister gave us a mantra. He says, Jai Hind bolte ho bolte ho, but Jai nahi karte. Jai for him was J for jointness, A for Atmanirbharta, and I for innovation. He felt that each and every time we are saying Jai Ho ya Jai Hind, in our heart and mind, we should be only thinking about how we can jointly achieve the vision of Viksit Bharat, how we can go from doing licensed manufacturing to self-reliance in the field of defense, and that's what Atmanirbharta is. And to do all that, we start innovating. Innovating in our minds, innovating in our culture, and innovating particularly in defense manufacturing. The defense acquisition, which is meant for the modernization of the Indian Armed Forces, started with the Kargil War, where a need was felt that we need to be self-sufficient and we need to modernize our armed forces and meet the deficit in their capacities and capabilities. So we had the fledgling acquisition wing set up in the Ministry of Defense in 2002, and around that time was the first manual that got evolved. The focus of that manual was to ensure propriety, as is the want for all of us in the government, that since we are responsible for the taxpayers' money and we have to optimize everything, let us focus on following the right procedure and ensuring value for money. From then to DAP 2020, we have come through a great evolution process where now ease of doing business is center stage. And today that we are all working for the DAP 2025, we are again guided by the Jai mantra that we have to jointly ensure that we innovate and we are self-reliant. So for that purpose, we've been working with the industry, with the users, with all the stakeholders to get their inputs as to what are the limitations and concerns that they feel in the procedure, and how best can we make the procedure adept to be able to do timely procurement, the right equipment at the right time being made available to the armed forces. It's not an easy task because first and foremost, we are guided by the fact that we have to ensure that the money is properly utilized. And the second thing is that there are competing demands of the users and there are requirements of the industry. And sometimes these two are not always in tandem. So I have always been saying two things to the two main stakeholders of the system, the industry and the users, that is the armed forces. To the armed forces, I always tell them that let us never look at the ideal, perfect systems which deliver to us 100% of our requirement. Let us be able to go a little lesser than 100%, but let it be completely made in India, by India, of India. To the industry, I have always been requesting that please do an honest stock taking. Only promise that which you can deliver, and in case there is a capacity and a capability constraint that you find in your technology or your manufacturing, please be upfront about it. Let us in the government be able to handhold you to be able to get the best from the world for us, and so that you're able to deliver to the armed forces. So to both the important stakeholders, and we are somewhere in between in this process, enabling both the sides, my request is that in this DAP 2025, we are wanting to bring in some objective quantifiers to assess the technology and manufacturing readiness of the industry, the product readiness of the industry. And I also would like the users and the armed forces to understand that at all times, we will not have the perfect systems. The systems that we have, that we tend to aspire for, have also gone through a great technological evolution in the foreign OEMs manufacturing facilities. So please give that time to the Indian industry to be able to meet your requirements. And please, the Indian industry, be very frank with us. Please be very honest about your capacity and capability, your constraints and your strengths, so that we can work with you and we are able to realize Jai. I really hope that the mantra of Jai doesn't stay a mantra, and it becomes something that we do day in and day out in our respective arenas. So with that, I think I would rather like to have an interactive session with all of you. So I thank Bharat Shakti for giving me this opportunity. And I see a lot of familiar faces from the industry and the armed forces among the audience today. I just want to assure you that here in the Ministry of Defense, we are totally committed to both spectrums, the industry and the users. And please enable us that this new document, Dept 2025, hopefully we should have it out by December of this year, we are able to address both your requirements in a way that doesn't make procedure the center stage, but fulfillment of the requirements center stage. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed my pleasure to take up this session, which probably is the most important session from the point of view that defense procurement is going to be the key to the development of the industry. To the uninitiated people, let me just introduce that Mrs. Dipti Chawla is also on the committee and chairing that committee, which is now formulating the Defense Acquisition Procedure 2025. She also has a wonderful experience and a very open mind. She was given the choice to give her keynote address and come off the stage, but she said that I would love to take all the questions and interact with panelists. The second panelist which we have got, in fact, she is very gracefully accepted to be here, is my good old friend, Air Marshal Dio. 30 seconds about him. He was the Vice Chief of Air Staff, entrepreneur, a brilliant mind, and you will get a perspective from him which is both of the people who are in the uniform and what he's trying to do in the industry for the last few years. So you will be able to get a very good perspective from that. Admiral Vashishta has been in the Quality Assurance Department of the Indian Navy, but he's also extremely well knowledgeable about what we are talking today, which is basically talking about ease of business and speeding up the acquisition. And to get the real startup perspective, we have Sanjeev Kulkarni, who is the director with a company called Optimus Logic. Now, with all this as the background, let's lay down the ground rule for today's discussion. To each of the panelists, we will give starting 3 minutes to give a little perspective on what they are doing and what they would like to suggest on the first topic, which is ease of doing business. I'll start with Air Marshal Dio. All yours, sir.
So dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, Jai Hind. Okay, that Jai also encapsulates what Ms. Chawla was saying. Okay, so I'm Air Marshal Dev. I retired as Vice Chief. Okay, should I put this off? So can you hear me in the back?
Yeah, it's much better.
Great. I'm a Marshal Dev. I retired in 2018 and I set up this industry. Before retiring, I had a choice like all senior officers do. Okay, there was some governorship in the offing, some lokpal in the offing. But I chose to become an entrepreneur and I don't regret it at all. Why did I choose to become an entrepreneur? Because while I was serving, I saw this gap. Okay, really, people treated us as second-class citizens when it comes to technology. So Indians, you can't handle this, just buy it from us, don't ask too many questions. From my group captain days, I used to feel insulted. foreign, lobbies were so strong then that they would say, okay, and ask any kind of questions you want, or any kind of specs checks that you want, but eventually this contract will get done. So that used to upset me a great deal. And I found that when this new government came in, okay, they were very sincere in Atmanirbharta, and there was a really a change of policy where the government really encouraged, they meant what they said about Atmanirbharta. And then I saw that yes, private industry has a chance of, existing. Small people like, not private industry was always there, big players were always there, but people like us who want to punch way above their weight. Okay, so just to make best use of this 3 minutes, I want to tell you what is it that is required to ease this procurement process. From the ministry's side, ministry has been extremely helpful. Where we are today with plenty of orders in our hand and doing absolutely high-tech stuff. So much so that you come and see my visitor's book. Okay, designer of Iron Dome has come and has complimented us on where we are and what we do. Okay, but that aside, we started because we got money. The most important challenge for Atmanirbharta and most important challenge for making sure that MSMEs, they come up and they contribute, is availability of money. When some MSME like us, we want to punch way above our weight and we want to develop missiles, bombs, we have the competency. We just don't have the money. We were very lucky that we are supported by government of Maharashtra, and we had investors who made the matching contribution, and we are where we are now. We have spent almost 200 CR. But the difficulty with most MSMEs, you can't bootstrap a large project. You want MSMEs to produce, they're really talented, they can do a lot, but you can't bootstrap a large project. You have to have debt. And then what happens when you have debt is, even if you have a contract, okay, somebody is sick in the somewhere and your whole project gets delayed by 15 days. My debt burden was 6 lakhs a day. And we were going through this process of, anything that you sell to the ministry, it has to be certified, it has to be, so somebody delays it by 6 days, or some clearance comes, 10 days later, that is 60 lakhs, that's gone down the drain. So servicing this debt that MSMEs have to take in case they have to move forward is a big, big deal. So are the bank guarantees. Okay, to give bank guarantee to the government, firstly, banks are not convinced at all that defense is the sunrise industry. Even now, the banks are so circumspect about dealing with you that it's difficult to get this money. Fortunately, Mrs. Sitaraman, she has done a wonderful job. She called the SIDBI guys and told them that, listen, you got to lend to MSMEs who are in the defense sector. That has worked. Okay, it has to continue. And that will sort of handle one challenge, that MSMEs face, and that will really help in procurement path becoming very smooth. The other challenge is that in defense field, you are actually people like us who don't need anything from anybody. We don't need any JV, no TOT, nothing. Okay, whom are we competing against? Who is our biggest competitor? Our biggest competitor is the government. Then come the big boys. Because big boys, like, okay, Bhatia Sahib is also in that category. They say, okay, small guys, look, how did you get this contract? Okay, we got it under IDEX because, ministry thought it fit. Okay, we fought away and we got that contract because we are competent. Okay, and we have the ability to deliver. I don't have a turnover of, 5,000 crores to deliver a missile. Okay, see what the Houthis are doing. See what the North Koreans are doing. Okay, learn from them. Okay, we cleared every test that was thrown at us, okay, before we did captive and carriage for our aircraft. So our biggest competitor is the government. And who certifies?
Wrap up your first argument. I'll come back to you again and again.
Sure.
Promise.
Sure.
So, Air Marshal, they have actually raised a very pertinent point, exceedingly important, that cash is going to be the king. Money is where the whole thing lies, and any delay which occurs really hits very hard. we are talking about two topics. One is on ease of doing business. Second is on hastening the acquisition process. Now, people who would feel that nothing much has happened, he rightly also mentioned that winds of change came 10, 12 years ago. A lot of things got changed. Just to give you in terms of numbers, before I move on to the second panelist to give the opening remarks, is that in 2019, India's total defense production was just about 75,000 crores. In 2024-25, it has risen to 1,51,000 crores, which shows that it is doubled in less than 6 years. But more important is that our exports have grown 5 times in the same period. And the interesting part is that the contribution of the private industry has risen from a measly 11 to 12% in 2019. It is now about 25%. A lot of things have changed. A lot of things need to change, as was indicated by our Raksha Mantri when he said that 2025 will be the year of reforms. Why declare it a year of reforms? Because obviously much more needs to be done. So moving on to that, let me now come to, so Kulkarni ji, you have got a perspective of a startup. We started in 2013, and I love your tagline, which I'll mention later on, but let's hear from you your opening remarks. 3 minutes, I will come back to you again, promise.
All right, thank you. So my company, Optimus Logic, we make cellular phones. We design our own cellular phones. In fact, we actually designed and manufactured India's first 5G phone, right? We are in one of the very fast-moving and very newly emerging areas of defense. Not just defense, but by the way, we don't operate just in defense. A lot of our customers are in non-defense world. And this is the peculiarity that we face in our industry, right? So they call it military-industrial complex, right? Military, in my opinion, is just an adjunct to the industrial complex. And this is nowhere more true than in the industry that Optimus Logic operates in. What I mean by that is, if you look at the defense spend in military handsets or end-user equipment, end-user compute equipment like tablets and so on and so forth, the outlay is maybe in a few thousands of crores. On the other hand, the entire civilian electronics industries is tens of billions, actually hundreds of billions of dollars, right? So there is a huge dichotomy. The civilian industry actually outproduces the military industry by 10:1, 100:1, right? So what this means is that from startups who are operating in our industries, like telecommunications and so on and so forth, we are highly dependent on the supply chain flows of the civilian industry, right? The civilian industries have their own rollout, their own plans of their entire equipment. The chipset X comes on this date. The chipset X has the following capabilities, the following characteristics. It supports the following features. The chipset Y will come a year from now or 2 years from now, and so on and so forth. And the entire industry moves more or less in tandem with these civilian industry, more often foreign civilian industry-led timelines. And as a player who works both in the defense and non-defense, we cannot just go and say, oh, you know what, we are going to operate in our own timeline, we are going to operate in our own specs and so on and so forth. We need to basically move in line with how the rest of the industry works, right? So one of the biggest pain points that we have is that, we are in trials at various different, Army-related, Air Force-related contracts. And the biggest issue for us is just timelines. The process is very slow, has lots and lots of trials, lots and lots of paperwork, and so on and so forth. So much so that by the time we actually might get contract, the chipsets that we actually rely on might be having their end of life, right? So that again then slows down procurement, results in wasted R&D and so on and so forth. So in some sense, what I'm essentially asking the procurement process of military is to take into consideration the new age realities of this modern supply chain and essentially reform and change the procurement policies in line with the larger industry at large. I would like to stop there.
Thank you, Sanjeev. I am now going to come to Admiral Vashishta. And Admiral Vashishta, when he was talking about ease of doing business, one of the key areas in ease of doing business is the quality assurance or quality control. You having headed that very effectively for a reasonably long time and also put into process many things, how can you help people who have brought their pain points become little lesser, and what is your views on ease of doing business?
Dhanyavad sir, respected Madam, Bhatia sir and Dev sir, former chiefs and audience. जो इवेंट मेरे दिल के काफ़ी क्लोज होता है, मुझे बोला गया था यंग एज में कि 15 दिन का पखवाड़ा हिंदी करना, एक दिन हिंदी दिवस उतना इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है. आपको जो इवेंट हो उसको शुरुआत आप हिंदी में करिए, वो आप ज़्यादा अपनी राष्ट्रभाषा को सम्मान दे रहे हैं. और स्वावलंबन के लिए मैं समझता हूँ राष्ट्रभाषा से ही शुरू करूँगा. सर, मैंने बैठ के पीछे काफ़ी कुछ लिखा था, बट आई थॉट आई विल फिनिश इन फ्यू मिनट्स. Sir, reforms in defense procurement, I will say two ways. One is the procedure, second is the mindset. Mindset I will say, sir, जो आपने quality related question मुझसे पूछा, now I will wrap up and come to that. Main problem our industry was facing during procurement, our QRs which are made, initially they were of combination of various good quality product which was never easy to procure, design. However, if my industry is making Indian industry, they are making first time, they are competing with the foreign industry who were there for the last 40 years, their product is absolutely perfect, and if I am making first time, it is very difficult for my industry to get those specifications the first go. So my QR should be in such a manner that essential and desirable. For example, if I am making an ammunition which has got a range of 20 kilometers and proximity from 5 to 30 meters, what happens if my industry is able to make it proximity for 4 meters and range up to 19 kilometers? Will I reject it? If I reject, I will not get the product. So I will say, sir, we have to make you in such a manner so that if there is marginal difference in my quality or specification at the end, but the safety and function is not getting affected, I should accept it as a version 1. But for that, I need to formulate my procedures, because then L2, L3 will have an issue because it is against the RFP. RFP was saying something else. So this, I feel, so this issue need to be addressed. And other thing which I felt related to quality assurance, there was a problem for the industry to get the product being tested and user trials at our facilities which are available. I know someone industry who developed a armament, they waited for 3 years, they could not test it in the country because facilities were available in the country, but they could not get it. They have to go abroad and get that thing tested, and then they have to go for that product. My stand is, sir, all our facilities should be provided to industry free of cost. Of yes, big industries, they can pay, they should pay it, but the small industry, MSME, should be provided free of cost. And urgency, requirement, priority to all this testing should be given. Then only we can come up to the level, then only procurement can be faster, sir. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So you raised a very interesting point, and I think I am going to ask you to answer that. One is regarding the QRs being formulated, which are very stiff. Secondly, the processes laid out in DAP are totally inflexible in the sense that they do not afford any flexibility. And last point, which is exceedingly important, is functionality versus the GSQR. So these were some of the issues which have come up. Before we open the first part to the House to ask questions, would you like to comment on that, Mrs. Chawla?
That was exactly my point in my keynote address, that there are two ends of the spectrum of the defense procurement and acquisitions. One is the users, which are the armed forces, their requirements, and the other is the industry, the manufacturer of those requirements. From both, it is my earnest request that we need to be a little realistic. We need to be giving primacy to innovation and self-reliance. And for that, the users have to be accommodative in terms of designing of their GSQRs. The functional requirements, as rightly brought out, should take primacy, but it should not get bound down with such technical specifications that our industry is not able to deliver that product and develops foreign dependencies in their supply chain. The industry needs to also do that stock taking and be very realistic about their self-assessment of their technology readiness, their product readiness, their manufacturing capacities and capabilities when they respond to RFIs. In the initial RFI, which is sent out by the armed forces, I find the industry affirming all the various multifarious requirements of the armed forces. So the armed forces feel that, yes, this is doable and this is achievable. So I think, like I said, both ends of the spectrum need to be a little realistic and give an honest response and an honest assessment of their requirements. Coming to the procedure, I keep telling everybody that please don't make the procedure the villain of the piece. The procedure is the enabling framework which enables all of us who are working within the system to be able to do objective decision making. If we did not have a framework by which we could move particular cases, take particular viewpoints at critical points, we would all be bogged down with malified intention. It is only the procedure and its practitioners who know the importance of having that framework. In the absence of the framework, we will not be able to work fearlessly and effortlessly. But should the procedure take primacy? No. Therefore, as we see the acquisition process from 2002 to 2020, we have systemically evolved it to be able to address the needs of all the stakeholders. And 2025 will not be procedure-centric. 2025 will be all about ease of doing business. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so reassuring to hear that it will not be procedure-centric, but it will be more towards actually ensuring that there is ease of doing business. Now, we have an option to take 2-3 questions on ease of doing business, wherein I think we'll be left with about 15-20 minutes of the session. We'll ask second round of comments and then ask questions from people. So anyone asking question on ease of doing business and DAP 2025, which is in the works, please raise your hand and ask that question, please. Yeah, please. Yeah, he's there. Can somebody give a mic to him, please? We are short of time and we'd like to close the session in time. Please hand over the mics quickly. Can't hear you.
Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon,
Yeah.
ma'am. This is Venkat, Head of Airbus Defense and Space for India, South Asia. Thank you for your comments on the ease of doing business. The question I have is, shouldn't we also have a measure of yardstick as a speed of doing business? Because ease of doing business is a fair thing. We have achieved a long way, but I would humbly plead, I think we should have now more as a speed of doing business as also one of the yardstick for us to benchmark, please.
Absolutely. The ease of doing business, the one important pillar of the ease of doing business is the speed in which we do the business. And the speed is essential for every stakeholder. But in order for us to be able to do this speedy decision making, we need a lot of support structures from all organizations. First and foremost, the testing infrastructure. The testing and trials have to be not serially done, they have to be parallelly done, and we have to have these testing and trial nodes available all over the country where constant testing and trials are done. That takes the bulk of the acquisition time. The testing. And without that, we cannot have an objective assessment of the readiness of the product and its ability to meet the user requirement. The other process actually doesn't take as much time as is perceived. The entire process of opening a price bid, concluding a contract, and getting an approval can take anything from 6 months to maximum 12 months in case we have to approach the cabinet for a sanction. So the government of India is aware of the need for testing and trials to be hastened, for third-party certifications to be brought in. Green channel policies have been brought in, and the new DTIS scheme, which has been launched by the Department of Defence Production, it is aimed at having the industry multiple sources where they can constantly get their product tested and tried without waiting actually for a tender to be issued for them to see their product readiness. We're going to embed these new policies and procedures in the DAP 2025. Thank you.
Anyone else asking? I think we are getting both sets of questions, one on ease of doing business as well as on cutting short the acquisition cycle. Anyone else who wants to ask a question? There's a mic.
Hi everyone. My name's Tushar. I'm from Toronto, Canada. Here in Canada, we're in the process of replacing our Victoria-class submarines. And recently, our Prime Minister has visited the Hanwha shipyard as well as the ThyssenKrupp shipyards. And recently as well, the German and Norwegian defense ministers came to Canada to propose a joint procurement for the Type 212. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I'll just come up front. Hi, this is a more of an ease of business as well procurement perspective. Yeah. So recently, the Norwegian and the German defense ministers came to Canada for Victoria-class submarine replacement program. And their main pitch to us was that we can jointly build, maintain, and generate spare parts for the submarines together. So I was wondering if in the future the Indian defense process would be open to a consortium-based acquisition or procurement approach for big ticket projects such as a submarine or aircraft. Thank you.
I think this question should be probably answered as we go forward, because it's very specific whether certain platforms will get opened or not. But as far as the intent is there, I think it was made very clear by Secretary Defense Production and you that any kind of collaborative effort with a foreign vendor would be most welcome as long as it supports the initiative of a Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India. Okay, so while we have been talking and I can't see many hands, let me quickly run down to the panelists once again and ask them one question. If you were to recommend one single recommendation which will make your life easy. May I start with Air Marshal?
Hello.
Yeah.
Secretary has already said that it is in the offing, but I would like to underscore it once again, that currently government is our biggest competitor, and big boys also would like to see us sink, but the government wants Atmanirbharta, and there's a direct conflict of interest where government agencies are giving us the testing facilities and certificates. So this has to be hived off. This conflict of interest, which is so blatant, and it's, you know, like, I'll just give an example. DRDO makes glide bombs like we make. They make anti-ship missiles, we make anti-ship missiles. Okay, we have contacts for that. And I don't have to tell you about guns. Okay, here is a person who has, who has been through it all. So now what happens is that, so DRDO employees are the ones who are going to give a certificate. They're all great guys, and nothing against them. But it is a conflict of interest. Okay, they have been doing our hand holding, they have been taking us along. Okay, but speed of doing business, somebody said, okay, so one person is down. Okay, they are really not equipped to handle, so much of commitment that has come their way.
Sir,
okay, and they will give
point
priority to
taken.
DRDO.
We need to avoid conflict
we
of
need an
interest.
overhaul of that system, and it has to be hived off from DRDO. It should be independent of DRDO. Possibly come under users directly, or under DMA, or under the ministry.
So the point which is very validly mentioned and given out is that we should avoid conflict of interest. In fact, there will be apparent feeling, whether apparent or right or wrong, that there is a conflict of interest between PSUs and private industry. He also mentioned DRDO and private industry. I think at the end of the day, we are looking at all the silos should be put down, and it has to be a whole of nation approach, whichever supports. But your point is exceedingly well taken, sir. Next, one single recommendation you would like to make.
Hello. So we are a small business, and for a small business like us, time is key. Time is money, right? So if there is any single recommendation that I would have from my company, it is the speed of contract signatures and requisite volumes. I think that is missing for us, right? Because unlike other panelists who in these things who have 1,000 crore revenues and so on and so forth, we are a very, very small emerging players with really, cash is king there. And so in order to maximize, and this is also one of the pillars of defense procurement, which is, strengthening MSMEs, which are the real bone, the real innovation bone of this country. So that would be my recommendation: speed and quantity. Thank you.
Admiral Vashishta, one single recommendation coming from you, sir.
Sir, if any Indian industry has developed a critical store, it meets 98% of the requirement. Functionality and safety is not an issue. It should be given a chance, sir.
Okay, so before I ask Assistant Secretary to respond, any other questions on cutting down the acquisition cycle from the people? Anyone? Yeah. Ashish.
Yes. So ma'am, you talked about innovation. With innovation, you will certainly get across single vendor situations, not an L1 situation. So how would you cater to that?
I think, ma'am, you can answer this question. We'll move on after that question. Yeah, Lijin.
Single vendor, I do not know why it is made out to be a very another villain of the piece like the procedure. Nothing like that. Any industry or any organization which is able to come up to the technical specifications is going to be welcomed. The problem lies within the corporate setup. you will have your own colleagues bringing you down with kind of unsubstantiated complaints. That kind of puts the pressure on the functionaries to address those complaints and ensure transparency and visibility in the decision-making process. But otherwise, the very fact that we go through extensive testing and trials is to technically qualify the right product and the right company. So it's not that single vendor is not welcome in the process. It is welcome in the process, but I guess the industry has to mature it and do that. Again, I come back to it, your internal stock taking and assessment. And if a fellow industry is coming up with a product that is meeting the requirements, we should celebrate that instead of bringing the company and its achievements down. Thank you.
Any other questions on acquisition cycle? Okay. This will be the last question. After that, we'd like to wrap it up.
I'm Commodore Arun Golaya. My question is to all the panelists actually, because we've been discussing about the ease of doing business and the speed of doing business and so on, and the procedures are not the villain. My only question, and I followed this even while I was serving, if you had to buy a TV for your house, or if you wanted to buy that suit, sir, which you're wearing, which is very nice, if you had to follow first, make the QRs, then do the trials, make sure that it qualifies, and then go for the L1, I can assure you nothing would ever get bought. So while I do agree that, propriety is important, but I think we've carried it to the extreme where that becomes, the procedures become the main thing, and it is the villain. It is the villain. We cannot have procedures like this, especially in an era of fast-changing technology. That is my view, and I would request if the panelists would give me their views on that.
I don't know about the colleague panelists, but I'm going to totally disagree with it. You cannot compare buying a television to buying equipment for the Indian Armed Forces. When you're buying the television, it is your money. So it is your decision how you go about it. When we in the government are sourcing equipment for the Indian Armed Forces, it is an honest taxpayer's money. So we are responsible to ensure visibility, transparency, level playing field. We are responsible to assure that we get the bang for the buck, and we are following the procedure in its letter and spirit. So the two things cannot be equated, and we have to give the system and its procedure time. But good afternoon, sir. But should the process get overtaken in its time? No, it should not. And being cognizant to that, we already have enough leeway within the procedure to fast track whenever we have to induct critical technologies. And now in DAP 2025, we are working out 2-3 other fast track accelerated procedure. But once again, procedure is not the villain. Procedure is the enabling framework and the backbone with which we are able to effortlessly and fearlessly and objectively make decisions and ensure the honest taxpayers' money is utilized in the constitutional spirit. Thank you.
Army Chief is already here, and I'm so glad he's going to listen to the actual gist of this session sitting out here. Sir, good afternoon. We had a very interesting discussion on ease of doing business and hastening the acquisition process. Very interactive session. The key point which comes out is that we all do realize that there is a need to hasten the process. The simple logic lies that acquisition cycle cannot be longer than the technology development cycle. Because if it is longer than that, you're going to get a obsolescent equipment. The answer to that is not only on one side, it lies on both sides. It is for the acquisition wing, the MOD, to fasten their processes, do parallel processing, have more test sites available. On the industry side also, a lot needs to be done. And I tend to agree, at the level of RFI, you'll have 25 responses. At the level of RFP, there'll be 6. For the trials, there'll be 3. And finally, there'll be 1. So we also need to look inwards. And the key to that would be a collective effort where barriers are down. There is a mutual trust. And I can assure you we can do that. Coming back to the second point, which was music to the ears, that also the way we issue out our RFP to everybody who asks for it or RFI response may not be the best way to go forward. Maybe technology readiness levels, manufacturing readiness levels must be seen before we are able to get to the market. We also need to appreciate that as we go forward, the quantum of business which is going to be handled is going to be doubling every 6 to 7 years. By 2047, the expectation is that the defense budget will be 6 to 8 times what it is today. And if that is the magnitude, we need to be prepared for that if we want a Atmanirbhar or a self-reliant nation coming up at that time. I think with these words, I would like to wrap up this session. Thank you so much to everybody, to all the panel, and to the people who are there.
Thank you so much. Our sincere thanks to all panelists for their valuable perspectives on the evolving procurement landscape. I would request Mr. Kishore Atluri, the President and Joint Managing Director of Zen Technologies, to please present mementos to our moderator, our keynote speaker, and the panelists. Can I have a round of applause for this session, please? A memento to our moderator, Mr. Rajinder S. Bhatia. To our keynote speaker, Additional Secretary, Department of Defense, Ms. Dipti Mohil Chawla. A memento to Air Marshal Shirish B. Deo, retired, founder and CMD, JSR Dynamics. To Mr. Sanjeev Kulkarni, board member, Optimus Logic. And to Rear Admiral Brijesh Vashishta, retired, Director Quality, Solar Defence and Aerospace Limited. Thank you so much. May I request all of you to please come up a bit in front for a group photograph? Can I have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you so much.